backed up as far as you can see its bumpers.
Got a bird's eye view, and it certainly doesn't look good from up here.
The tank is full, the engine's humming. Those wide open roads are beckoning. So sit back and get ready for Motoring 88. Brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. This week on Motoring 88.
The tools we have on board today are what we call an 0150 cutter. We could chop this Jeep apart within about 5 minutes here if we wanted to.
Okay, Brad, let's try it through the cones and see how she handles. Car washes have had a bad reputation over the years. There's nothing wrong with the bristle washers as long as they're maintained properly.
I'd stay away from them if you really wanted to keep your investment.
You're looking at a 1988 930 slant-nose turbo Porsche. And no, I don't own it, but you'll meet the owner later on. Hello, everybody. I'm Brad Diamond, and welcome to another edition of Motoring 88, a program for you, the driving audience. Okay, let's get things rolling and join Steve Grant at Trackside. And Steve has been spending some time with some men and women who have one thing on their mind when they go to the races, and that's safety.
Tom Sneva has been racing long enough to realize the importance of the safety crew. He may have been the first driver to clock 200 miles per hour at Indianapolis, but he's also had his share of accidents.
Well, we probably have the best safety group in marshals, of any type of racing. Sometimes a lot of the corner workers and flagmen we use vary from track to track, but we get the best that are available. And then we have our own core of people that follow us to every race. And you don't need them until you have a problem. You know, when you're going, everything's fine. You hope you never need them. But if something does happen, it's a good feeling in the drivers' minds that we have the best people possible for those jobs.
When it comes to safety on the racetrack, these guys are the first defense. The marshals act as the eyes and the ears of the race car driver. They alert the driver to maybe oil on the track, slow-moving traffic. And if anything's going to happen, they're going to know about it first.
I have to watch the cars, make sure they make it through the corner cleanly. If they don't, I have to either push the car off the track if that's possible, put out any fires that have started, if any have, and just make sure the driver's all right. The other major job we do is flagging. Yellow tells the driver whether there's something in the corner. White flag tells you that there's an ambulance on the track or service vehicle. The yellow and red is a debris. The senior of the corner carries the black flag, which shuts down the race.
It's scary. This post here, if something happens, we have nowhere to go. You just up against the fence.
The scariest thing about this job is when a Indy car decides to park in front of you at about 100 mile an hour, hits the guardrail, sends debris everywhere. Makes you wonder why you do it.
But it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun anyway.
Once race control gets the word from the corner workers that there is a problem on the racetrack, they dispatch us to the scene, and when we get there, we analyze the situation as to whether we have a fire, whether we have a medical problem, an extrication problem, or whatever it may be, and based on that, the guys spring into action. In simplest terms, we provide the entire care program for IndyCar drivers. From the time they get in trouble in an event, whether it's a crash, a fire, whatever it may be, right on through and including definitive care in a hospital.
I got hit small my entire.
You okay? I want you to do We have 5 physicians, 3 nurses, and 4 paramedics. The rest of the people have firefighting and extrication specialists. The tools we have on board today are what we call a champ. It's a spreading tool. Basically for car racing, it's a spreading tool. It can be a pulling tool as well, depending on what the situation is. On this side here, we have what they call a 0150 cutter. That'll cut just about anything as far as, well, this Jeep, we could chop this Jeep apart within about 5 minutes here if we wanted to. As far as a race car is concerned, it does a fine job on any part of a race car.
As far as safety goes, this is the last stop on a race car circuit, and this is the spot where no driver wants to end up. Behind me is the Horton Medical Trauma Unit. This is the place where a driver would be taken in the event of an accident, whether it be serious or not. The patient would be stabilized inside and then transported to a local hospital.
Well, the way the cars are designed now, the most common injury that we have is to the lower extremities, either fracture of a foot or ankle or a combination of both. What we've tried to do is come as close as we could to duplicating a hospital emergency room with regard to trauma. We can deal with multiple trauma, so we use it for a variety of reasons. I think most of the people here are frustrated race drivers. You know, in our day, we've either driven a race car or we'd like to have driven a race car. So most of the guys here are race fans. They love the sport. You have to have that kind of dedication to do what we do. There's a lot of travel, a lot of time away from home. And if you didn't love the sport, if you weren't dedicated to it, you wouldn't be able to do it.
The first car I ever drove was a 1956 Meteor.
It was a Hillman. It was an English car, two-color, light, sort of a medium gray with a dark blue.
It was an English car, and I don't remember now the make, but it was an English car.
Oh my goodness, I'm still driving it. It's an 84 Lada.
1936 Ford Coupe.
First car I ever drove was a convertible, but I don't remember what kind it was because I was too young to read at the time.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, the great car wash debate.
Next on Motoring 88, probing the latest Ford.
The Porsche engine in the Quaker State Indy car performs at a punishing 11,000 RPM. That's why it takes Quaker State motor oil with new QSX to protect it.
The same motor oil you can buy for your family car.
Now you'll receive a $3.50 manufacturer's refund when you buy a 12-liter case of Quaker State motor oil.
But hurry, because the offer is good only until June 30th, 1988. Hey, back here, right off!
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want a V6 engine. A powerful V6 engine. What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want to help someone move.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
Hop in, Brad. Nice braking, Graham.
Fortunately for you, they work this time.
I'll say. Well, what are we test driving this week?
This is the new Ford Probe. It's a Mazda-Ford joint venture. It uses the same powertrain and engine and everything else as the MX-6 or the 626, but as you can see, it's got its own very individual look to it. 2.2 litre, 12-valve engine under the hood with a 5-speed standard, so it should be fun. Okay, for our first test, let's try the 0 to 100 kilometer time. It's important that this is a reasonable time for merging safely on the highway and stuff like that. Not too bad at all. Okay, Brad, let's try her through the cones and see how she handles. To determine the brake efficiency, we're going to use the decelerometer, and it shows the deceleration rate in feet per second squared. When we use the conversion chart, we'll be able to find out exactly how many feet that is. 27, that's pretty good. Here, the interior noise level is very quiet. The suspension is different from that of the MX-6. It's a little stiffer sprung. You look at it from the outside and it says Ford, but inside they've left so much Japanese influence in here, and I think that's to their credit.
Now, Graham, I know you, and you've always got a pet peeve. Do you have a pet peeve for the Probe?
Yes, I do. My pet peeve with the Probe was that during our brake testings, the rear brakes had a little bit of a tendency to lock up too early. That aside, on the whole, we like the Probe and think Ford has got a definite winner on its hands. Let's go to the scoreboard. Braking. 5 out of 10 for that, I'm afraid, because of my pet peeve. The handling, excellent. Acceleration, again, more than adequate. The sound level at 68 decibels is very respectable. 31 miles per gallon won't hurt anybody's pocket at that rate.
Next week, Graham will examine four-wheel steering.
Hi, I'm Charlie Goodman, and I sure do love to drive. But sooner or later, you've got to stop. Join us later and find out 2 different ways to execute braking procedure on Behind the Wheel.
When Motoring 88 returns, Bill Gardner does a fluid check.
Yes, sir.
Could you fill her up, please?
And you know where the gas goes in it?
You know, I have no idea.
That's the thing with these new cars. We don't know where the oil goes, where to check the oil, or where to put the gas in.
Oh, there it is. And speaking of finding things on a car, our expert under the hood on Motoring 88 is Bill Gardner. And Bill's subject this week is engine fluids.
Okay, last week we had the bucket and the sponge out and we were cleaning the exterior of the car. This week we're going to get under the hood and look at some of those areas that need to be addressed before the summer driving. We want to look at the fluid level and condition in the radiator overflow tank here located on the fender. If it's low, we can top it up. If it's empty, we've got to move on to the radiator itself. Okay, it says right on the radiator cap here, never open hot. We don't want to go near that cooling system when it's hot. There's a lot of pressure in there and the hot fluid can scald you if you remove this radiator cap at the wrong time. Press down and twist it off, set it aside, and check the fluid level and condition. It should be green, a bright green, and kind of transparent. Okay, this car's in good condition, but if you find your radiator coolant to be a dark color or rusty color, then we've got to get the garden hose out and do some flushing and get some new coolant in there for the summertime. If the car's more than 3 years old, now's a good time to lower the level in the radiator so that we can view the top few inches of the radiator core and see if there's any calcium blockage in that radiator that could restrict the cooling. Here's what you're looking for now that you've drained the fluid level in the radiator. You can view the radiator core tubes and see if there's any calcium blockage. If they are restricted, you're going to have to remove the radiator and take it down to a radiator shop and have it cleaned out professionally. You should be checking your engine oil level weekly, year-round, but now's a good time to get in there and pull the dipstick and look at the level and the condition. If the oil is no longer transparent and you can't read the add and full marks through the engine oil, then maybe it's a good time to think about changing the engine oil along with the filters. If the engine just needs some oil added, remove the oil cap. The engine oil grade recommendations are written right on the oil filler cap. Add your oil, and then when you're finished, very important, don't forget to replace the cap so you don't lose that oil. Okay, now's a good time to have a look at the air cleaner assembly. Remove the wing nuts and set the lid aside. We'll pull out the air filter element itself. You can see this one's been in here for quite a while. It's really dirty. We're going to discard this element, lift off the air cleaner assembly, and make note of the position of all these hoses that have to be reconnected when we reinstall the assembly. Set it aside, and we can use an aerosol cleaner to clean out some of the brown and black deposits that can get in the carburetor. I cleaned this one yesterday. It's pretty clean now, but you'll know it when you see it. It's a dark deposit, and this aerosol cleaner will wash it away. You don't have to wipe it off. Just use the washing action of the aerosol. Move all the linkage. Spray all the pivot points of the choke and the fast idle cam. Make sure you don't get this stuff sprayed back in your eyes. It can really hurt. Another important point to remember is to clean the air filter cavity here, the housing for the air filter. Once we've done that and it's nice and clean, we're going to install the new filter element. Another very important area to check, of course, is the brake fluid. If you remove this lid and the fluid level was low, quite often this diaphragm will pull out. It stays with the fluid. Now, when you refill it, you're going to have to tuck that diaphragm back down in the way this one was. And also clean around the outside edges any debris that could stop this from making an effective seal. Another very important thing to do is clean this ledge around here.
and check the fluid level. It should be within about 1/8 of an inch of the top. All these things we've looked at this week are preventive maintenance. We're trying to catch problems before they develop into costly repairs. Next week, we're going to look closely at belts and hoses. Until then, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 88.
And now, behind the wheel with Charlie Goodman.
Threshold braking. No doubt about it, folks. The quickest way to stop a car in a straight line under most road conditions. We're going to show you how it's done. All right, away we go. Accelerating to 50 kilometers an hour. Wet asphalt. 50 kilometers an hour. Threshold brake. Squeeze the pedal. Squeeze it harder, harder, right to a stop. Try to keep the wheels rolling all the time. Anytime the wheel locks and starts to scrub, you're sliding, folks. You're going too far. All right, now, we will now use a small cone to mark this spot, and then we will proceed, and we will compare the distance in stopping between proper threshold and lock-up braking technique. All right, the same 50 kilometers an hour, same asphalt, nice and wet and slippery, entering the exercise, and stop, locked up solid. Everything I can put into this stop is happening. Folks, I'm almost pushing the seat right off the track. You could hear the tire skidding. All that scrub meant that we were sliding totally out of control. Having discovered the difference now between threshold braking and lock-up braking on a smooth surface, let's do something interesting. Why don't we try the same experiment on this gravel-covered road? We're accelerating to 60 kilometers an hour. Just over the rise of this hill, we'll spot our cone. At that cone, that is the beginning of the braking distance. The first attempt will be with threshold braking. All right, now I've got to concentrate. 60 kilometers and threshold brake. Squeeze it to a nice stop. Beautiful. Now, we'll mark this spot with a cone, and then we'll go around and we'll make our attempt with the other lock-up braking technique. Now, continuing with our test, except this time with our lock-up braking technique. We are accelerating, we're at 60 kilometers an hour, holding steady, and we're within sight of our cone, getting ready, and now lock it up. How does this technique work? What is the difference? It is because of the debris that is built up under the wheel, creating so much additional friction. The result? An astounding 17 feet shorter using this technique. And you know what? It works that way every time. However, consider, what if a person had been standing right here? Even this shorter distance would have been inadequate. What would we have done? Join us next week and find out on Behind the Wheel.
I would recommend first that they would take a driver education course rather than to learn from their parents and their friends, because everybody has bad habits whether they know it or not.
Don't drive without your license.
Buy Japanese. They never go wrong.
Enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah.
Drive safely.
Don't drink and drive.
Yes, drive carefully. Consider other people.
Keep on trucking.
Anything actually, no, just to slow down a little bit sometimes, because I'm a new driver. It's like, please, don't give me heart attacks. I'm just starting out.
Be careful and have a good summer.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, suds fly in the car wash debate.
The Porsche engine in the Quaker State Indy car performs at a punishing 11,000 RPM. That's why it takes Quaker State motor oil with new QSX to protect it.
The same motor oil you can buy for your family car.
Now you'll receive a $3.50 manufacturer's refund when you buy a 12-liter case of Quaker State motor oil.
But hurry, because the offer is good only until June 30th, 1988. Hey, back here, my oil!
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
You're looking at 300 horsepower, and it is turbocharged. And with me right now is Steve Champion of Performance Cars in St. Catharines. And Steve, welcome to Motoring 88. And the question I have to ask you, and I know our viewers want to ask, how much?
$175,000.
Are there many to purchase?
There's only one made for every 25 million people on the planet, so no, there's not a lot around.
What kind of people would purchase a car like this?
Someone who's looking for something that's prestigious, performance-oriented, and also very unique.
Tough question, but would you take this car into an automatic car wash?
No, I wouldn't recommend it, Brad.
Well, you know, Steve, for years there's been an ongoing debate as to the pros and cons of automatic car washes. And that's the subject of our next story with Sandra Neal.
Everyone knows a vehicle looks its best when it's clean. The question is, what's the safest way to wash your car? Let's see, there's the soft cloth, the soft touch, the feather touch, the no touch, and the coin car wash. And of course, there's the good old-fashioned way, done by hand and a little elbow grease.
Car washes have had a bad reputation over the years. There's nothing wrong with the bristle washes as long as they're maintained properly.
I'd stay away from them if you really wanted to keep your investment at its best peak.
I'm not sure I would agree with the premise that because there's curtains or cloth packages that is doing a great deal of harm to the cars.
Some car washes can cause damage to your car in addition to just scratching it. And anybody that's taken their car through a car wash on a number of occasions can say, gee, that looks kind of dull, it's kind of deadly.
The problem is that you have people that have a bad experience. Just like any business, you always get these horror stories. But it happens once, once out of every 100,000 cars. We high pressure clean the car first, and then the rest of the film is taken off with the soft cloth. We're in between going a total touchless system, which is getting into Canada now, and the total cloth or a brush system.
It's a very good system. I've used it probably about 50 times over the last 2 winters. It's the only car wash I would use other than by hand.
Well, AquaShine really is the name that we've given our particular system, and it's a revolutionary new way of washing cars because it has no brushes. Basically, it works on a frictionless system rather than a friction system, which is the conventional way of washing a car. It's very much like taking a shower at home. It not only does what the customer can see, and that is the visible surfaces of the car, but more importantly, underneath the car. We have bumper blasters that are sprayed in angles, giving the customer 100% cleaning.
I come out of my way actually to use this car wash.
So this isn't your first time?
No, it's not.
How does it compare to other car washes?
A lot better. I find with the other car washes, it doesn't get all the mud off, and occasionally you run into paint problems.
I'd recommend the coin. Certainly in cases where there's been excessive salt use that we do in this country, and you've got a feeling that you want your car to look a little nicer.
Well, they're fine for people who like to do it themselves. In the winter, they can be pretty cold. Basically, what we're doing with a high pressure is the same as what you do in one of those bays.
It has to be a hand-on job, I think, that really does. You get into all the nooks and crevices of the paint and all the nooks and crannies that are around the lights and the door handles and things like that. And I think just whoosh, spraying down that they do on a car, I don't think you're going to cover the whole area well enough.
Most people usually take the soap, put it in a small pail. The pail and the water and the soap gets dirty very, very quickly. Then they take the dirt and actually spread it on the car, causing very fine brush marks and towel marks on the car. So they actually can damage it at home.
Would you rather wash your car on your own?
Well, for $3 or $4, whatever it costs, it's quick. So I usually go through the automatic.
So when somebody goes to an automatic car wash, are they going to a dramatically different car wash with the different names?
In some cases, yes. It's the operators are going to be operating differently.
Would you say the end result is the same?
The end result, yes, but basically, yes.
Well, the best way, as far as I'm concerned, to keep your car clean and appearance pretty is to take some time to it. Add a little love and tender love and care to the car. I'd like to see you do it on a Saturday in your yard and go to the car wash only at the extreme cases.
Do you wash your car by hand ever?
Seldomly.
Why is that?
It's a lot of work.
Now, I've been told, though, that any system that has any cloth or brushes can damage the car. What do you think?
I really don't know, to be honest with you.
Do you care?
I don't really care because it cleans my car and doesn't damage the car, so it really doesn't matter.
know, it seems like we just got started, but we are completely out of time. We'll be back next week with more of Motoring 88. Make sure you join us. You know, this car is really going to spoil me.
Next week on Motoring 88, a special edition from the Indianapolis 500, as we track the progress of Canada's only driver at the Brickyard. If you have any questions or suggestions, drop us a line at Motoring 88, 379 Danforth Avenue, Toronto, M4K 1P1. Motoring 88 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.